Okay, right now I'm gonna go on part two. Part one was Samaritan white DNA, and part two, the lost tribe hypothesis. 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 European Jewish test case. In the missing link of Jewish European ancestry contrasting the Rhineland and Khazarian hypothesis 2012. Iran Al-Haik distinguishes between the Rhineland hypothesis and the Khazarian hypothesis. According to the former Ashkenazi Jews are the descendants of Israelite tribes who migrated to the Rhineland, and according to the latter-day are the descendants of the Khazars, a Turkic people originating in and populating an empire north of and between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. Apparently, the Khazars converted to Judaism in the 8th century, migrated westward into Eastern Europe in the 12th and 13th centuries when the Khazarian Empire was collapsing. Under the Rhineland hypothesis, European Jews would be very similar to each other and would have a predominantly Near Eastern ancestry, but Erhaik found that the genome of the European Jew is a mixture. He seems to interpret his result to mean that the Khazarian hypothesis is true, but in fact his findings support both hypotheses and therefore fail to decide between them. Both the Rhineland and the Khazarian hypotheses are needed to explain the dual nature of the European Jewry, and so the dichotomy remains, and nothing is explained. A third hypothesis, and one that would, if true, actually explain the phenomena in need of explanation, is that the ancient kingdom of Israel was divided into two broad groups, the root of which are the same, but who have followed geographically and genetically different pathways out of Israel. One of these groups included Sephardi Jews and various Jews of Near Eastern descent, and the other larger and more diverse group includes peoples such as Ashkenazi Jews, along with other seemingly non-Jewish people whose memories of their Israelite roots have been lost over the centuries. Such a division has historical basis in the division of the southern and the northern kingdom of Israel. The Tanakh tells us that kingdom of Israel was united under David and Solomon, but after the death of Solomon, it split into two. Judah and Israel, the Davidic line, Jeroboam, became the kings only of the southern kingdom of Jerusalem, which consisted of two tribes, Judah and Benjamin, while the northern kingdom of Israel, Rehoboam, established by rebels against the Davidic line, was comprised of 10 tribes. These are the 10 tribes. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Issachar, Zebulun all came from the sons of Leah. Dan and Naphtali is a concubine, the name of Bilhah's children. Gad and Asher is Zilpah, the concubine of Leah. And Joseph is Rachel's son. The Joseph comes with the Egyptian he married Egyptian uh, Joseph married the Egyptian, and the sons will have, I believe, E1B1B, the E1B1B, the twins with E1B1A. Ephraim and Manasseh. This northern kingdom lasted until about 722 BC, when its inhabitants were gradually removed by the Assyrian kingdom, Tiglath-Pileser and Shalmaneser. Where did the lost tribe go? Jeremiah 31 verse 8 emphasizes a northerly direction. See, I will bring them, the Israelites, from the land of the north and gather them from the ends of the earth, which is consistent with Josephus' statement in the Antiquities that the 10 tribes are beyond Euphrates till now and are an immense multitude. 2 Kings chapter 17 verse 6 is more specific. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria captured Samaria and deported the Israelites to Assyria. He settled them in Hara, in Gozan on the Harbor River, and in the towns of the Medes. This one here is located in the Assyrian part of the Syria, northeastern part of Assyria today, and northeastern part of Assyria by the river of Euphrates. And actually, right now it is taken by the Kurdish rebels. 2 Kings chapter 18 verse 11 reiterates, the king of Assyria deported Israel to Assyria and settled them in Hara, in Gozan on the Harbor River, and in towns of the Medes. According to the Jewish Virtual Library, there is no doubt that Haran, Gozan, and Havar, the modern Kavur rivers, are in the vicinity of Kurdistan. But these translations are based on the Mesoretic text. In the earlier Septuagint text, the mountains of the Medes is used instead of the towns of the Medes. An earlier version may help cast light on 1 Chronicle chapter 5 verse 26, which reads, so the God of Israel stirred up the spirit of Pul, king of Assyria, that is Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, who took the Reubenite, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh into exile. He took them to Hara, Havar, Hara, and the river of Gozan, where they are to this day. This passage seems to include an additional location in Hara, and some scholars have suggested that Hara is an Aramaic form of the Hebrew word for mountain, Har, and thus the phrase of maize has been mistakenly omitted. International Standard Bible Encyclopedia. So the way the Hara, H-A-R-A, and Hara, a place named in 1 Chronicle chapter 5 verse 26, along with the Hara, Havar, and the river of Gozan, whither the Reubenite, the Gadites, the half-tribe of Manasseh were carried by Tiglath-Pileser. In 2 Kings chapter 17 verse 6, chapter 18 verse 11, Hara is omitted, and in both and in the cities of the Medes is added Septuagint renders one Ore Medon, the mountains of Medes, which may represent Hebrew Hare Madai, mountain of Media, or Madai, cities of Media. The text seems to be corrupt. The second word may have fallen out in First Chronicle chapter 5 verse 26, here being changed to Hara. Today we call the mountains of the maize the Zagros Mountain, the largest mountain range in Iran, Iraq, and southern eastern Turkey. So the largest mountain range in Iran, Iraq, and southern eastern Turkey is still Kurdistan, disputed Kurdistan area. Thus, there is a genetic divide between Ashkenazi and Sephardi Jews, and a corresponding genetic link between Ashkenazi Jews and certain non-Jewish populations is shown by Blur's study of CCR 5-Delta 32, 2003. This marker, which protect against AIDS, diabetes, and multiple sclerosis, was discovered in nearly 30% of subjects from Iceland, where 30% of men carry North R1A- and it is common amongst Ashkenazi Jews, while rare amongst Sephardic Jews. Here, Australian Ashkenazi Jews were found to have CCR5-Delta 32, while Australian Sephardic Jews had a frequency of 5.7%. Of non-Jewish Australian controls had an allele frequency of 11.25%. Moreover, its frequency proved to be 20% stronger in those whose grandparents came from Russia or Eastern Europe. This connection prompted Bohrer to speculate that the mutation first emerged among medieval Russian Jewish communities and was spread to Northern Europe by the Vikings in the form of their Jewish slaves. This divide link is reflected by the Baha discovery that the majority of Ashkenazi Levites belongs to haplogroup R1A, common among Norwegian Serbs and Belarusians, but rare among Sephardi Levites and Sephardi Israelites, who tend to belong to the Near Eastern haplogroup E, J, and T. Okay. Moreover, I will going to the continue in the missing link of European Jewish ancestry, the smoking gun of haplogroup K. That this divide link tracked back to an area to the north of Israel is indicated by the relatively high concentration of Q. There are amongst Ashkenazi Jews 5%, Norwegians 4%, and the Scot living in the Viking colonized Shetland Island 4 to 8%. Ellen Levy Kaufman in The Mosaic of People, the Jewish Story and the Layer Assessment of the DNA Evidence 2005, comment that in the section called the smoking gun of haplogroup Q. With the discovery of a haplogroup Q among Ashkenazi Jews, DNA researchers may have found the smoking gun of Khazarian ancestry. It appears that Norwegian, Shetland, and Ashkenazi Jews possess the highest percentage of haplogroup Q of any populations in Europe, in layer link between two very different populations who may share a common ancestors from Central Asia or Eastern Europe. Interestingly, Scandinavians and Shetlanders also possess high level of haplogroup R1A1 as well. Very high percentage of Q are to be found in the Americas amongst Native Americans, which is 92.3% in Navajo. Navajo Indians are Mexican alike, very short, in stocky, uh, uh, dark brown, indigenous Indian tribe, looks like from Mexico. And in the Altai region of Southwest Siberia, 93.8% in Ket, from where Levi Kaufman conclude this group may have arisen. In conclusion, it appears that some members of three very distinct populations, Scandinavian Shetlanders, Native Americans, and Ashkenazi Jews, may share common ancestors originating from the Altai regions of southern Siberia. But Q is largely found amongst Sephardim or in Near Eastern Jewish populations. Levi Kaufman refers to the research of David Fawkes, who noted in a continuity of genetic marker patterns from the Shetland Islands and other Nordic colonies to groups such as the Altai of Central Asia and the Azeri of Azerbaijan, and the lack of similarity of this subset of the Scandinavian population to local Eastern Europeans. Okay. Um, so by K, fax means K2, now known as T. Unlike Q and R1A, T has some of its most significant concentrations in the Near East and especially in the Zagros Mountains area, notably amongst those including Jews living in those parts to which the northern tribe of Israel were first exiled by the Assyrians and dying off from there. Iraq, Kurdistan, Iran, Assyria, Turkey. The exceptions are the South African Jews, the Lemba, who by tradition are exiled of the Assyrian captivity. Iraqi Jews, Kurdish Jews, and the Lemba has the highest percentage as well from Zimbabwe. And Iranian Jews, Assyrians, Turks, Moroccan Jews, Druze. Moroccan Jews are the Spanish Jews, Sephardic Jews, Druze. Druze are the people like Samaritans. They're living in Israel, the Arabic tribe, but they are very close to Jewish priesthood. But they were helped. The Moses' father-in-law was the Druze. Ethiopians, Yemenite Jews, Egyptians, Turkish Jews, Roman Jews, Iraqis, Syrians, Palestinians, Bulgarian Jews, Ethiopian Jews, Jordanians, Iranians, Ashkenazi Jews. The veracity of the mathematics of time as asymmetric mutation rate, the history of the exile from northern Israel tribe, Levi Kaufman's, and facts of insight, together with these considerations about K and T, point to the possibility that K is unlike E or J, a specifically Northern Israelite haplogroup, and the related possibility that Q and R1A are specifically Northern Israelite haplogroups that originated in Eastern Europe and Central Asia but derived from K. That is, the possibility that K was commonly found amongst the members of the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom exiled by the Assyrians, but not amongst the tribe of Judah and Benjamin. And that K gave rise to Q and R1A and other haplogroups during or after the Assyrian exile. In accordance with this possibility, Behar's 2003 study showed that the highest frequencies of T amongst the Sephardi Jews belongs to the Sephardi Levite, 23%, and perhaps the highest concentration of T in any European population. Thus, the Sephardic Levite, Iraqi Jews, Kurdish Jews, Lemba tribe from Zimbabwe, Iranian Jews, Assyrians, Sephardic, Israelite, and Turks. So surprisingly, the Bantu tribe from Zimbabwe is presenting the highest marking of the Middle Eastern Zagros Mountain DNA. And they are populated in southern Africa next to Mozambique, Zimbabwe area. And I believe that the Portuguese Jews, the Sephardic Jews, when they had been came into the inner part of Africa and excavate into Mozambique to Zimbabwe interior. There were one kingdom called Monomotapa in Zimbabwe, and that's how the trade began from Portuguese and Sephardic Jews from after 1492. They intermarried, and they had DNA passed down to those Bantu tribe from Zimbabwe, because more than 500 years, the 500 years is more than the Israel had been conquered by Egypt. It's only about 300 to 400 years. So 500 years, the pure Portuguese can be black Portuguese in Mozambique, then came out again, becomes the white Portuguese. So that gonna be happening through the throughout the during more than 500 years in the history of DNA. It has never been changed. That's my opinion. And T is much rarer in European Sephardic Jews genetically. Mendes study found no T in its Sephardi subject, which is in accordance with the long-held tradition of these European Jews that they are the descendant of the tribe of Judah and the house of David. Josephus writes that as early as 90 BC, there were already Jews of the tribes of Judah and Benjamin living in Europe. Okay. There are but two tribes in Asia, Turkey and Europe, subject to the Romans, while the 10 tribes are beyond Euphrates till now, and an immense multitude, still living there in the area, in the part of today's utmost area, the Kurdish land, Kurdistan, Iraqi Kurd, and also that northwestern areas are also the Kurdistan region of Iran, and also southwestern Turkey is also the Kurdish area. It's a mountainous area. It's all taken by Kurds, the Madai or Maid, in sons of Ashkenaz. But the Kurdish, the group of people, what they call the what do you call it? The Esther, the book of Esther was located, and Darius the king. I come back with number part 3.